Start with the name of Allah, who is the most merciful and grateful. Dear students of class second year, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome you once again, Pakistan International School Types Virtual Learning System. Dear students, today we have lecture number 11 and unit 7 for grade second year. And unit 7 is Tales from Shakespeare. Tales from Shakespeare, dear students, it has two plays. One is The Merchant of Venice, and the second is The King Lear. So the book is Intermediate English for second year, and pages today we are going to learn from 278 to 291. And here's your teacher, Sarfaz Nadeem. Dear students, I wanted to add over here that this play, The Merchant of Venice, or another one means two plays, they have 12 numbers in our annual examination, and this is play section. 3 questions will be given to you, and you have to attempt 2 from 3, and each question carries 6 marks. It means that 2 questions you have to solve, and 12 numbers are about the play section. So the 2 plays we have in our course. So today we are going to start about the first play, The Merchant of Venice. Now, dear students, I wanted to add here, you can see over here that we have pages from 278 to 291. Almost 10 pages are there about the lesson. You can check at your book if you have a book, and if you have opened it, you can see that there are 10 pages about this lesson. So I have summarized this play, The Merchant of Venice. So the summary of this play is going to present before you. I'm going to read it. And the questions are there. I will try to answer the questions as well. But inshallah, as I told you in my last lecture, that the notes will be sent to you for the questioning and answers. So let's start the reading. First of all, we have a pre-reading, The Merchant of Venice. And what you think about this play, The Merchant of Venice? The play is about a stone-hearted and merciless Jew, Shylock, who lived in Venice. He was a money lender and lent money to Christian merchants on high interest rates. Antonio was a rich and noble Christian merchant who lent money to the needy without interest. Now here means 2 people are involved. Let's see. There was an enmity between Shylock, the Jew, and Antonio. What plan Shylock made to take revenge upon Antonio, and how was he humiliated? We shall read about it in the play. Here we have, dear students, our summarized play, and I'm going to start. There lived a rich merchant in Venice, Italy. He was generous and kind-hearted. His name was Antonio. Keep in your mind that, dear students, Antonio was kind-hearted and a generous man. And he was also a rich merchant. He was famous for his good heart throughout the city. There was another merchant whose name was Shylock. He had piled up huge wealth by lending money at great interest to Christian merchants and other people. He was a stone-hearted person. Now, the 2 different things are over here, dear students. One is about the Antonio, that he was a rich merchant and he was generous and kind-hearted, and he was famous for his good heart throughout the city. And on the other side, we have another person. His name is Shylock, and he is not a kind of like generous or kind-hearted. He has a stone heart. Yes, he was a stone-hearted person, And all the merchants, including Antonio, disliked Shylock because of his cruelty regarding dealing in business. Means he had a kind of cruel, and that's why nobody liked him. Shylock also disliked Antonio because he would lend money to the merchants without any interest, which was hurdle in the progress of Shylock's business. Now here, Antonio was not liking to Shylock. Shylock also disliked Antonio. Why? That why Antonio was giving money to the merchants without any interest. Look, lend money to the merchants without any interest, which was hurdle and definitely hurdle in the progress of Shylock's business. Therefore, there was a great enmity between them. So it was great conflict between them that they were disliking each other. One was kind-hearted, one was stone-hearted, one was giving money to people, merchants without interest, and one was giving with interest. So it is basically over here the scene or introduction. Antonio had a friend whose name was Bassanio. He considered Bassanio his brother and soulmate. Whenever Bassanio wanted money, Antonio helped him, and it seemed as if they had but one heart and one purse between them. Means, and then Antonio and Bassanio was both were very good friends. One day, Bassanio came to Antonio and told him about a rich lady, Portia, whom he loved. He wanted to marry that rich lady who lived in Belmont. He did not have money to furnish himself for the marriage in befitting appearance. For this purpose, he demanded 3,000 ducats from Antonio. Antonio had no money by him at that time to lend his friend. His ships of goods were in the sea, and he expected those ships to arrive soon. As Antonio was out of money at that time, they both went to Shylock. Shylock wanted to take revenge from Antonio, so he agreed to lend money to Antonio, but Antonio had to sign a bond. Shylock bond means there means any kind of, in other words, that you are supposed to be write a document or kind of conditional paper. Shylock said that if Antonio failed to repay the money in due time, Shylock had the permission to take 1 pound flesh from any part of Antonio's body. Bassanio did not like the bargain between Antonio and Shylock, but Antonio signed the bond without the approval of Bassanio. Now, dear students, here you are, hope so okay, you understood that what is this passage is telling that one day Bassanio, who was a very good friend of Antonio, he was in need of money. So when he said to Antonio that I am in need of money, but his friend Antonio was not in such a condition to lend him money because his ships were in the sea and they were not reached. And Bassanio was loving to a rich lady, Portia, and he wanted to marry that rich lady who lived in Belmont. So he did not have money to furnish himself for the marriage. So now the thing is that they signed a bond, and what was the main condition? That Shylock had the permission to take 1 pound flesh from any part of Antonio's body. Bassanio took the money and started his journey forward to Belmont along with his loyal servant Gratiano. They reached Belmont safely and met Portia. Now, dear students, keep your mind, the loyal servant Gratiano was a servant of Bassanio. So they started the journey. Okay, they reached Belmont safely and met Portia. Portia gave a ring as a token of her love to Bassanio and told not to detach it from his finger. Now here Portia gave a ring to the Bassanio. Gratiano wanted to marry Nerissa. Nerissa was also a girl, and now here we are talking about the servant of Bassanio, Gratiano, wanted to marry Nerissa, the waiting maid of Portia. Now, Bassanio and his servant Gratiano both were in love with two different ladies. Bassanio was in love with Portia, and she had a servant, Nerissa, and the Gratiano was in love with Serene. And he was also wanting to marry with Nerissa. Nerissa also gave a ring to Gratiano. They were celebrating their wedding ceremonies when a letter reached Portia castle. It was Antonio's letter in which he had written about his imprisonment and the punishment he had signed in the bond. Portia met Bassanio, the owner of her wealth, and told him to take gold with him and reach the court as soon as possible. Now, dear students, here you understood that when they were busy in their wedding ceremonies, a letter came, and it was letter about the Antonio, and it was written that the court is supposed to give punishment because he had signed the bond. So Portia met Bassanio, the owner of her wealth, and told him to take gold with him and reach the court as soon as possible to save the Antonio. Portia called a relative and told him the story. He gave her his dress and to Nerissa his cleric dress. They reached into the court in disguise of a lawyer and cleric. No one in the court recognized them. Portia delivered a speech on mercy and then addressed Sherlock to take mercy and let Antonio free. Sherlock insisted on punishment and told her that he liked the judge to act upon what written in the bond. Portia read the bond and told the court that according to bond, Sherlock had the permission to cut 1 pound flesh from Antonia's body, but he was not permitted to shed a single drop of blood from his body, as it was not mentioned in the bond. Hearing this, Sherlock became worried and told that he would take the money, but Portia told the Duke that he had made a conspiracy against a good person, therefore he would be deprived, deprived from his wealth in compensation. The Duke pardoned him on the condition that his half wealth would be given to the state and half to Antonio. Antonio told that if Shylock gave his share to his daughter, he would not take half of Shylock's wealth. The court was dismissed at the moment. Now, dear students, here you have read that the matter just came in the court, and Port and Portia also came in the court, and she also gave his views. And Portia read the bond and told the court that according to the bond, Sherlock had the permission to cut 1 pound flesh from Antonio's body, but he was not permitted to shed a single drop of blood from his body, as it was not mentioned in the bond. Portia, in the disguise of the lawyer, wanted to take the ring from Bassanio. Antonio told him to give the ring the lawyer. Nerissa took ring from Gretanius. They both reached Belmont before the arrival of Bassanio, Antonio, and Gratiano. When they reached the palace of Portia, she demanded the ring. Bassanio told the whole story. After making them confused, they exposed their true identity and gave them the rings back. Portia gave a letter to Antonio in which it was written that his ships arrived safely. Thus, the marriages were then properly celebrated with merriment and laughter. So, dear students, this is about the whole story, which is summarized, which is the summarized. And detailed story is available in your book from page number 288. You can read it slowly, slowly, whenever you are getting time. And the words, new vocabulary is also present. You can read. Now, dear students, we are going to read the theme of this story, means the sum up of this story. Here's the theme, dear students. The Merchant of Venice is a play whose central theme can be identified as the conflict between selflessness and self-interest. This is very important to remember, dear students. The Merchant of Venice is a play whose central theme can be identified as the conflict between selflessness and self-interest. This main theme drives the plot and moves the play forward, influencing the action of the central characters. Other themes include love, friendship, revenge, greed, racism, the cyclic increase of hatred, mercy, prejudice, and the opposites, plank versus perception. This essay of Merchant of Venice is an analysis themes that dominate this play have been explored and explained. It's a very clear, dear students, crystal clear that the what is the theme of the play. The main theme of the Merchant of Venice is the conflict between self-interest and self and love. On the surface level, the major difference between Shylock, the Jew, and the Christian characters of the play is their level of compassion. On one hand, the Christians value the importance of human relationships over their business contexts. Unlike them, on the other hand, Shylock is heavily invested in material gain. So, dear students, this is the uh, theme, the Merchant of Venice, and historical context of the is that like much of the rest of Europe, England severely restricted the rights of Jews. In fact, Jews were banished completely from England in 1290 by King Edward. And this is just historical context. So, dear students, this is about the lesson. And then we have a question and answers as well. You can see on your book on after page number 289 and 290, we have the new vocabulary. After this, dear students, we have study questions recalling, and we have first question: who was Sherlock and where did he live? So answer is Sherlock was a Jew who lived in Venice. He was a he used to lend money on interest to Christian merchants. He had amassed a great wealth by doing usury. He exacted the payment of the money with such severity that he was much disliked by all good men. And question number two is who was Antonio? Why did he hate Shylock? Antonio was a rich and noble Christian merchant who lent money to the needy without interest. Now, this is a difference between them. Antonio hated Shylock because he used to lend money to people with a high rate of interest. He was a very dear friend of Bessen. Number three, how did Antonio help the needy in Venice? Antonio was a kind hearted merchant in Venice. He always helped the needy in Venice and lent them money without any interest. He paid the debt of people lent by Shylock and would make them free from his debt. He was greatly loved by all of his fellow citizens. Question number 4. Who was Bassanio and why did he need money? We say that Bassanio was the dearest friend of Antonio. He was a noble Venetian. He wanted to marry a young lady who was the daughter of a rich man in Belmont. In order to make himself fit for her hand, he needed money. So he requested Antonio to provide him 3,000 ducats so that he might be able to do necessary arrangements for his marriage. Why did Antonio and Bassanio go to Shylock the Jew? Bassanio needed 3,000 ducats, but Antonio didn't have money at that time. His ships were in the sea and were expected to reach soon. As Antonio could not help Bassanio, they went to Shylock to borrow 3,000 ducats for Bassanio's marriage. Question number 6 is why did Shylock lend money to Antonio? Answer is that Shylock lent money to Antonio because he wanted to avenge his earlier insult in the city, and Antonio used to humiliate him in the market. That's why Shylock lent him money on the condition that if he failed to return the amount in due time, he would give a pound flesh from his body. Shylock had a bad intention behind this help. And 7, who was Nerissa and whom did she marry? Nerissa was Portia's waiting maid. She secretly loved Greciano. She married Greciano at the time when Portia married Bassanio. She gave a ring to Greciano as a symbol of her love and said never to part with it. And number 8, we have what was the condition of the bond which signed by the Antonio. The condition of the bond was that if Antonio failed to pay back 3,000 ducats in due time, Shylock would be legally allowed to cut a pound of flesh from Antonio's body. Question number 9, dear students, who was Portia and whom did she marry? Portia was a young and beautiful lady who lived in Belmont near Venice. She had received a great deal of wealth from her father. She was the beloved Bassanio and married him at the end. And the question number 10, why did Shylock refuse to take back the money he lent to Antonio? Shylock refused to take back money because he wanted to take the life of Antonio. He wanted to take revenge of humiliation given by Antonio in the Rialto. He hated not only Antonio but all Christians. Therefore, he did not accept the money offered by Bassanio in the court. And question number 11 is also, dear students, that what role did Portia play in the court? And it's Portia played the role of a lawyer in the court. She disguised herself in the dress of a lawyer and pleaded the case of Antonio very wisely. Antonio's life was saved because of her wisdom and cleverness, and by reading the bond very carefully. And two more questions are present, dear students. Question number 12 and 13. Who was Antonio's life saved? You can say Antonio's life was saved by Portia with her cleverness and wisdom. She read the bond very carefully and told Shylock to take money and let Antonio free, but he insisted upon the punishment. And then Portia said that Shylock was allowed to cut a pound of flesh from Antonio's body, but he could not shed a drop of blood because it was not mentioned in the bond. In this way, Antonio's life was saved. It was not possible to cut flesh from the body without shedding blood. So this kind of cleverness was showed by Portia. And that's why the life of Antonio was saved. And the last question is, was in your opinion the verdict of the court just and fair? So this is your answer. You have to guess, you have to read the whole story, and then you have to answer, because this in your opinion. So your opinion matters, and might be this question will be in exam, so you have to be careful regarding these questions, which are totally creative questions, which are from your own way. So, dear students, I hope so you understood the whole passage which is presented. As I told you, the question answer at the page of 291 to 292. I have tried my level best to answer these questions, but I once again to tell you that inshallah soon you will be able to get the notes with the passage of time. And inshallah, if you have any query, still any problem, you can ask me on the Zoom question answer session. And till then, dear students, goodbye and thank you for joining. See you inshallah. Allah Hafiz.